Hi, Hare Krishna. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for part 2 of exploring the principles of Saranagati. Exploring the principles of Saranagati through the songs of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is part 2. So we will just start with our Mangalacharan prayers to our teachers and the Lord to pray for blessings and guidance. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjanam Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Siddhantotpal Saranityarasikam Hangsang Vilasatmakam Audaryakya Sudhama Sevakadhanam Vishuramba Bhakti Pradam Yajna Yukti Vichakshanam Dvakapidu Vaishishta Shaktya Sada Vandeham Tripurari Namakayatim Shri Bhakti Vedantinam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ajanulambita Pujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishvambharo Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunamvataro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gododaye Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamonudo Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Charana Sakho Sukhado Paramanando Sundaro Subalapriyo Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Gaudiya Vaishnav Guru Parampara Ki Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind Ki Jai Jai Shri Nitai Gauranga Hari Bol. So yes, welcome. Nice to be with you again. The last time that we gave a talk on this subject was back in June, so it's quite a few months ago. And back then we did we studied the song Shuddha Bhakata of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and as it turned out, as I was planning that class and realized how it corresponded with the first limb of Saranagati, then I realized that this could potentially be a series, and that next time we could do a song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that corresponds with the second limb, and so on. So that's the plan for today. The 6 limbs of Saranagati are mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 100, in a verse that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks when he's instructing Srila Sanatana Goswami. So the 6 divisions of surrender, as quoted in the verse, I will read the verse. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati vishvaso guptritve varanam tatha atmanikshepa karpanye shadvidha sharanagatihi. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender, and humility. So that's as spoken by Mahaprabhu. And the great Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's written hundreds and hundreds of songs, but he has written one particular whole book of songs dedicated to this topic, this Saranagati, which contains the six sections, so the 6 limbs of Saranagati, and then in each section there's a collection of songs that correspond and go along with those limbs. So so since in the last class we explored the first limb, the accepting favourable things for devotional service. So today we are going to look at the second limb, which is called Pratikulyasya Varjanam, which means the rejection of things unfavourable to devotional service. So this particular section of songs in the book, it contains 4 songs in that section. Sorry, I'm just organising my notes. Okay, Shraddha Devi. So there's 4 songs in that section. The first song is about rejecting and avoiding philosophies of where the goal is liberation or material enjoyment. So basically the paths of Gyan and Karma. So those have that, because those have some sort of like selfish ideal, we're kind of thinking of ourselves and, our own enjoyment first. So because our ideal is like pure bhakti, we don't, without any notion of putting ourselves first or our own pleasure first, as we know, love is unselfish. That is a characteristic of love. We don't think of ourselves first. So and there's obviously the famous definition of pure bhakti according to Srila Rupa Goswami and his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the famous verse 111. And it's mentioned in there specifically about that pure bhakti is devoid of karma and jnana. So that verse, which many of you probably know already, Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyana vritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. And the translation of that is the highest bhakti is defined as continuous service or emotions directed towards Krishna, his expansion forms, or others related to him, with a pleasing attitude towards Krishna. It should be devoid of desires other than the desire to please the Lord, and unobstructed by impersonal jnana, the materialistic rituals of karma, or other unfavourable acts. So that's I mentioned that verse because it sort of ties in, like I say, in this section of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songbook of Saranagati, this section of Anukulyasya Varjanam. Pratikulyasya Varjanam in this section. So the 4 songs. So the first song is about avoiding those paths of karma and jnana. And then the second song in that section is the one that we're going to sing today, and we're going to study that one today. And that one contains like quite a variety of helpful instructions to guide us. And the third song in that section is mainly about rejecting Mayavad philosophy. And the 4th song in that section is interesting because it's actually from the perspective of the spiritual world. So in that song, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is coming from the perspective of his own swarup as a servant of Radharani, the mood of Radha Dasyam. And in that 4th song, he's speaking about kind of situations in the spiritual world which he would avoid or reject because they're opposed to the service of Radharani. So I thought out of all those 4 songs, I thought the second one would be good to go through because it's quite, like I say, it's quite varied and there's a number of different things that we can sort of speak a little bit about. So what we'll do is I'll share the screen, we'll sing the song all the way through, and then we'll read the whole translation, and then we'll just go through verse by verse, just saying a few things about some of the things that we come across. So I will share the screen. And hopefully this should work okay. Okay, so hopefully you can see that okay. I probably will have to, I can't fit the whole song in. It's 9 verses, but just I can't fit the last line in, so I'll have to scroll it up a bit as we get to the end, I suppose. Unless, maybe that works. Maybe not. See if I can scroll it up a little bit. Anyway, no, I'll probably have to move it whilst we're singing, but we'll try to play cartels at the same time. So what I'll do is I think everybody else is muted. So we'll keep everyone muted just because it's difficult to do call and response singing on Zoom because the responses usually come in at different times. But, please do sing the response. And I'll try to, I'll allow the time for that. So this is song 2 from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Saranagati section on Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikar, to reject activities that are unfavorable for devotional service to Krishna. Okay. Sorry, I'm just organising my bits of paper and my books there. Okay, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Tua bhakti pratikula dharmaya tiroya paramajatane yajibo nishchaya tua bhakti pratikula dharmaya tiraya paramajatane yajibo nishchaya tua bhakti bahirmukha sangana kuribo goranga virodhi jana mukana heribo tua bhakti bahirmukha sangana kuribo goranga virodhi jana mukana heribo bhakti pratikula stane na koribo shoti bhaktira priyakarye nahi korirati bhakti pratikula stane na koribo shoti bhaktira priyakarye nahi korirati bhaktira virodhi grantha patana koribo bhaktir virodhi vyakya kabuna shunibo bhaktira virodhi grantha patana koribo bhaktir virodhi vyakya kabuna shunibo gauranga varjita sthana tirtana himani bhaktir bhadaka gyan karma tucha jani. Gauranga varjita sthana tirtanahi mani bhaktir bhadakagya karma tucha jani. Bhaktira badhaka kale na koriyadara bhakti bahir mukha nija jane jani para. Bhaktira badhaka kale na koriyadara bhakti bahir mukha nija jane jani para. Bhaktira badhika spriha koribo varjana abhakta pradatana na kori grahana. Bhaktira badhika spriha koribo varjana abhakta pradatana na kori grahana. Yaha kichu bhakti prati Hula boli jani Yaji bojatane taha e nishchayavani. Yaha kichu bhakti prati Hula boli jani Yaji bojatane taha e nishchayavani. Bhakati vinoda podi Prabhu Racharane Magaye Shakati Prati Kulyera Vajane. Bhakati Vinoda Puri Prabhu Racharane Magaye Shakati Prati Kulyera Vajane. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Satchidananda Moy Thakur Bhakti Vinod Ki Jai. So, you shall read the translation. See. So we'll read the translation how it is here on KK Songs, but when we go through it, I've got a few different translations, so we'll sort of maybe like adapt some of the words slightly because some of the words are slightly different translations, but we'll just read the verses through. So I vow to abandon without compromise all actions contrary to your devotional service. I will keep company with no one opposed to devotional service, pardon me, nor even look at the face of a person inimical toward Lord Gauranga. I shall never reside at a place unfavourable for devotional practices, and may I never take pleasure in non-devotional works. I will read no book opposed to pure devotion, nor listen to any explanation which disagrees with pure devotional principles. I will never regard as sacred any place where Lord Gauranga is rejected. Any knowledge hindering pure devotional service I consider worthless. Any season which poses obstacles to the execution of devotional service shall find no favour with me, and I will consider all relatives or family members averse to pure devotion as strangers. I will abandon all desires that hinder devotion and never accept food offered to me by non-devotee atheists. I vow to promptly shun whatever I know to contradict pure devotion. This I strongly promise. Bhaktivinoda, falling at the feet of the Lord, begs for the strength to give up all obstacles to pure devotion. Jai Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So I think I will just stop sharing the screen there just to make it easier to see you. And we'll go through the verses. It's a really nice song. I'm really not familiar with this song at all. I've never I've just sung it a few times practicing for this class, but I've never actually sung it as a bhajana program or anything like that. But it's very nice. So we've got the first verse. He's saying, Tua bhakti pratikula dharma yate roy parama jatane paha tyajibo nishchui. With great care and attention, I will give up all those activities that are unfavourable for rendering devotional service unto you. So parama yatane means with great care. So immediately we get a sense of like clarity and determination from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that he's determined in this with great care, with great attention. I'm going to do this. So he's conscious of like the difference between things that are favourable and things that are not favourable. So I guess I was thinking we can kind of analyse that in our own lives as well. That, you know, there are activities that give us feeling of greater connection and consciousness of the Lord, and those that don't, those that take away our focus. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not sort of kind of black and white. It's kind of, you know, obviously there's obvious things like when we're direct, like, you know, in association with great devotees like our spiritual master, or, you know, it's then obviously we get that greater feeling of connection. And but yeah, in our day-to-day lives, then I guess we want to try to do more of the things that do help us to feel more connected. And I guess, I guess we have to do what we have to do. There may be things that we have to do which are not necessarily like pure devotional service, but we will come to that in a sec when we talk about the second verse, because it doesn't mean that we have to become affected by those things. So, because in the second verse, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that I will not associate with people who are averse to your devotional service. I will never see the faces of those who are envious of Lord Gauranga. So this is he's saying, so the people that who's saying are averse, he's saying Tua Bhakti Bahir Mukha. That's like the word that he describes for people that are not devotees. So he's saying Sangana Koriba. I'm not gonna take their association. Bahir Mukha. So that this phrase Bahir Mukha comes up again in the sixth verse, which we'll come to. But essentially, there's one lecture where Prabhupada says that Bahir Mukha means what does he say? He says Bahir Mukha means not devotee of Krishna. But like, so we know like Mukha means face, Like Mukha, there's a name of Radharani Hemamukhi, that she has a golden face, Mukha. And Bahir means like outside or external, or like extrovert. So basically, I guess I would think that Bahir Mukha means like someone whose focus is outside, external, looking for their enjoyment or their fulfillment in external material things. So like our Guru Maharaj, he sometimes says like go within or go without because externally we can't get what we're seeking. But so those who are only concerned with that, with looking externally for outside material things, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that he doesn't take their association. And this, I was thinking, this also corresponds with the second verse of the Nectar of Instruction, where Srila Rupa Goswami states like 6 things that are not favourable for the execution of pure devotional service. And that verse in Upadeshamrita is Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangaschalolyam cha shadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. And the translation is, one's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2, over-endeavouring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. So that 5th principle there, that associating with worldly-minded persons, in this verse it's called Jana Sangha. Jan, I guess Jan means kind of like the people in general, doesn't it? So association with like worldly-minded people. So I'm sort of corresponding that with the same as the Bahir Mukha, like the external sort of people. In the purport of Nectar of Instruction, there's a paragraph where Prabhupada just talks a bit more about the meaning of that Jana Sangha. So I'll just read that little bit of Prabhupada's purport. So he says that Jana Sangha refers to associating with persons not interested in Krishna consciousness. One should strictly avoid such association. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has therefore advised us to live only in the association of Krishna conscious devotees, Bhakta Sane Vasa. One should always engage in the service of the Lord in the association of the Lord's devotees. Association with those engaged in a similar line of business is very conducive to advancement in that business. Consequently, materialistic persons form various associations and clubs to enhance their endeavours. For example, in the business world, we find such institutions as the Stock Exchange and Chamber of Commerce. Similarly, we have established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to give people an opportunity to associate with those who have not forgotten Krishna. This spiritual association offered by our ISKCON movement is increasing day by day. Many people from different parts of the world are joining the society to awaken their dormant Krishna consciousness. So that's what Prabhupada says about that. And obviously, but the thing is, it's not really black and white, is it? What does that really mean? Like associating with people. I always think it's quite a nuanced topic because most of us, many of us don't live in temple ashrams. We may have done in the past, but we may not be doing that now. And so it's kind of unavoidable to interact with people in the outside world. Through our work or, just our sort of general lives. So I think when it's spoken about avoiding that association and not having that association, my understanding is that when we talk about Sangha or like association, it means taking association, it means like becoming affected by it. So, so I think that interacting with others, whether they're, you know, people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, it doesn't mean that you have to become affected by them. You know, and actually, especially if they're like kind of innocent people, actually, in many ways, people can be like engaged in service somehow or other, you know. It's not that you have to like avoid like interacting with them. But I was thinking, like, you know, by our daily, you know, we have our daily sadhana that we do every day, you know, reading and chanting, and we try to internally remain sort of focused. And I was thinking that by that daily practice and our internal focus, that we can still interact with others, and it doesn't have to affect our own determination. And actually, in regards to this, I've made a note here of one of my favourite quotes that I wrote down some years ago as I was listening to a Q&A of our Guru Maharaj Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Swami. I was listening to a Q&A, and it's from May 2017, and it's about that internal focus, and I really like it, and I'm hoping one day to get it printed on a t-shirt back to front, so that when you look in the mirror you can read. And I'll share this quote with you. So our Guru Maharaj, he says that in sadhana bhakti we become a sadhaka. It's a huge thing. Everyone wants to become a siddha, but to become a sadhaka, it's described by Rupa Goswami, is a huge accomplishment. And it's very fulfilling in and of itself to be able to look at our guru in the eye and the Vaishnavas or ourself in the mirror and say, I'm a sadhaka. This is what I am. This is what my life is orbiting around. There are other things like my station, my situation as a householder, or as a monastic, for example, that I'm doing. But this is the central hub around which everything I'm doing is orbiting. And this is my trajectory that I'm moving in the direction of the ideal of to attain prema. So I really like that quote of Guru Maharaj, that, you know, it's really nice just to remember this. So my understanding is that, you know, if that is our internal focus, then when these great devotees like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, when they're saying about, you know, avoiding association with like worldly minded people, or, you know, those who seek externally, it doesn't mean that you can't interact with them. I've always thought that, you know, or not always, but I've come to realize that it means you don't have to like take their association, but you know, as long as we're kind of determined in ourselves. So yeah, we try to stay strong in our own faith and our practices, and yeah, in this way we can help those sort of worldly minded people that might just be innocent or unaware of spiritual truths when we do interact with them. And that doesn't necessarily mean by preaching, you know, like being preachy. It can just simply be by your example, and like, you know, that's the best way to teach, really, isn't it? I know in terms of like child psychology, you know, I have a daughter. She's a teenager now, but I remember, you know, over the years I've read quite a lot about child psychology, and there's that funny phrase, isn't there, that, you know, children, not just children, but anyone really, well, maybe specifically children, learn in three ways: by example, by example, and by example. That only it doesn't matter how much you tell them or whatever, you know. So yeah, just by our own example, being fixed, we can also help others. So then in this verse, he says that Gauranga Virodhi Jan. So that means that the people who are envious of Lord Gauranga, and he says that he will never see their faces. Yeah, the word Virodhi, Gauranga Virodhi Jan. Virodhi means like hostile or opposed. So he's saying that he never sees the face of those people. And I was thinking that kind of ties in with the sort of Madhyam Adhikari understanding that a Madhyam Adhikari avoids the envious. So that seems to be what's being described here. So yeah, we'll move on to verse 3. So in verse 3, he says, I will not reside in a place that is unfavorable for cultivating devotional service to you, and I will not and I will not be attached to any activities that are detrimental to devotional service. So not attached to them. So I guess, like I say, we do what we have to do, but don't have to be particularly attached. And then verse 4, he is saying, Bhaktira Virodhi, that word Virodhi is coming up again, Virodhi Grantha, Patana Koribo, Bhaktira Virodhi Vyakya, Kabuna Shunibo. I will never study any literature that contradicts the conclusions of devotional service. And I will never hear a scriptural commentary or discourse that does not advocate your devotional service. So, we mentioned at the start of this class that the other songs in this section of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, particularly songs 1 and 3 in this section, they are specifically about, rejecting the philosophies that are opposed to bhakti. And then, and I guess he's emphasizing the importance of bhakti shastras for our own advancement. And, again, that's something we can experience practically through the bhakti shastras, through reading the Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. We can feel, more connection and more closeness, and we can feel our, some development of our bhakti the more we read. And, but as I mentioned, this virodhi word is coming up again. So anything that's opposed or hostile towards it, he's not going to have anything to do with that. Okay, so then verse 5, he's saying, I do not accept as holy places, tirtha is a holy place. He won't accept any place as a tirtha where Lord Gauranga has not visited. So I think in this, what does he say here? Okay, so in the translation we just read, he's saying any place where Lord Chaitanya is rejected. In one translation, it says any place that Lord Gauranga has not visited. And in another translation, I think in this Gaudiya, Sri Gaudiya Gita Gucca, is it here he says? Any place unrelated to Lord Gauranga, he doesn't consider it to be a holy place. So any place that's unrelated to Lord Chaitanya. And then he says, I consider that knowledge, any karma or jnana, to be most insignificant or worthless, which does not encourage my performance of devotional service. So regarding holy places, I remembered that there's a bit in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sri Navadvipdam Mahatmya, where he mentions, I remember reading it many years ago, and there's a part where he mentions that in Kali Yuga, that all the tirthas, all the holy places, their spiritual potency is decreasing in Kali Yuga. But he says, except for Mayapur, except for Sri Mayapur Dham, he says that potency is increasing. So it's nice, actually, quite significant at the moment, because I mentioned our Guru Maharaj, and he's keen to have a place to reside in Mayapur. Tirthas, they're losing their potency. And then, so when he's saying he considers any knowledge to be most insignificant that doesn't encourage performance of devotional service. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as we know, has written many songs, and some of them have expanded a bit more on this kind of uselessness of material knowledge. And actually, one of my favourites that I used to listen to is called Vidyara Vilase, and it's in the Saranagati book. So maybe in the future we can cover that song. But there's a wonderful verse where he's basically talking about how his whole life that he was collecting all this kind of scholarly knowledge. But then as he's getting older and older, he's realizing that he's lost the power to enjoy through the senses, and that he's realized that all this material knowledge that he accumulated, he says it has now become like a pointed shaft or an arrow, and it's piercing my heart with the intolerable burning pain of ignorance. And I was just thinking, wow, that's amazing. But actually, anyway, it's funny. I don't know. I mean, anyway, I'll say this anyway because I always found it interesting. I don't know if anybody here used to listened to Bob Dylan, but there's a Bob Dylan song, Tombstone Blues, and he actually says the same thing in that. There's a verse where he sings like, I wish I could write you a melody so plain that could hold you, dear lady, from going insane, that could ease you and cool you and cease the pain of your useless and pointless knowledge. So it seems to be like there's like some principle there that it's like a pain caused, we just accumulate all this useless knowledge. And actually last week I was there was a devotee who came to visit Brighton, and he was giving a class, and he mentioned that material knowledge actually burns the heart, which I thought was quite interesting. But I thought, well, that goes along with what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. And so yeah, he's saying here that like he's just anything that does not encourage performance of bhakti, he's just going to consider it worthless and insignificant. So yeah, I guess as much as we can, we want to cultivate knowledge in devotional service, and not get distracted with like kind of developing knowledge about meaningless things that doesn't help us to feel closer to Krishna. I mean, we may find various things interesting, but I suppose just in the end, we don't want to have that intolerable burning pain of ignorance in our hearts. So then we've got verse 6, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is singing Bhaktira Bhadaka Kale Nakori Adar Bhakti Bahirmukha Nija Jane Jani Par. I do not respect. So one translation is, I do not respect that time or season which I am unable to use for your devotional service. Or another translation was, I never celebrate any occasion that hinders bhakti. So that's quite interesting. So I guess kala means like time, right? But here it could be translated as time, season, or occasion. But so if he finds that any time he can't use it for your devotional service, then he doesn't respect it or celebrate it. And then he says, if my relatives are averse to you, I consider them to be strangers. And again, this same word is used, bahirmukha. So if these kind of outward seeking people, if my relatives are like that, then I just think of them as strangers. So he's speaking it quite simply. Okay, then verse 7, he's saying that I will carefully give up all desires that are unfavorable for bhakti. I will not accept any foodstuff offered by non-devotees. So I guess, the food stuff, we know about the importance of prasad, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also has expanded the glories of prasad quite a lot. I mean, he's actually written, even in this, I think it's in this one, in this if you have this Gaudiya Gita Gucha songbook, there's actually a whole section of songs about prasad written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and there's quite a lot of them. And obviously there's the famous one that many devotees sing before they take prasad, the Sharira Vidyajal. And he's in that song, he's glorifying the abilities of prasadam to conquer the tongue. He's saying that, this body is a lump of ignorance and the senses are a network of paths leading to death, and how it's very difficult to control the senses, and the tongue is the most difficult to control. But he says that, by the prasadam, we can conquer the tongue, and then, it makes our senses something more than just a network of paths leading to death. Oh, actually, that's what I marked this page, because I thought I'll just read that prasad prayer. I know one translation of it, but I read a different translation in this book, and I will just share it with you because I just thought it was quite nice to just expound the glories of prasadam. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sings, "Oh brothers, The material body is a web of ignorance, and its inert senses are the cause of its ruination, for they throw the soul into the ocean of material enjoyment. Among the senses, the tongue is the most greedy and wicked. It is very difficult to conquer in this world. Krishna is so merciful that he has given us his own food remnants to help us conquer the tongue. Oh, brothers, honor these nectarian foods, sing the glories of Radha and Krishna, and with prem call out Chaitanya Nitai. So he's so like I say, there's many songs where Bhaktivinoda Thakur glorifies the food that is made with love and offered with love to Krishna. Lots of other songs, as well as the very famous Bhoga Arati song, which was on that Radha Krishna Temple album, the one that George Harrison produced. There's that the Bhoga Arati is sung on there. And I guess as practicing sadhakas, we experience practically how divine it is to be able to honor the Lord's prasadam. It's such a fortune. Like there's nothing like it. And so in this verse, he's mentioning here that he won't take any food from non-devotees. I mean, the actual anna is often commonly translated as food, but I think it strictly means grains, right? Anna. Abhakta, so the non-devotees, abhakta pradata, if they're giving some anna, some grains, nakori grahan, I will not accept it. So, I mean, Prabhupada also said something similar, didn't he? I think Srila Prabhupada asked his disciples to particularly don't take grains cooked from outside. I get it because they say that the consciousness of the person who's cooking, it goes into the food. So we want our consciousness to be as kind of clear as possible, as focused as possible. And the ideal for that would be only to take Mahaprasad that's been cooked for the Lord and offered with love as best we can. And then in the 8th verse, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is singing that I will carefully give up everything that is unfavorable for devotional service. This is my promise to you. So he's promising the Lord that he's going to, go to this effort to carefully try to give it all up, all the things that are unfavorable. And then in the 9th verse, it's very sweet, actually, how it ends, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's promising the Lord that he's going to very carefully try, but then in the last verse it says Bhakti Vinod Podi Prabhura Charane Magaye Shakati Pratikuliera Varjane. Falling at the lotus feet of the Lord, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur begs for his mercy, so that he will have enough strength to give up activities that are unfavorable to pure devotion. So it's really sweet, I thought, these last 2 verses. We see the 2 important elements of our advancement in devotional service. That first, in the 8th verse, he's making his promise to the Lord that he will carefully make effort to give up what's unfavorable. But in the last verse, he's begging for mercy, for the strength to do it. So our Guru Maharaj, he sometimes says that, that we should practice, to perform our spiritual practices as if it all depends on our own effort, but really knowing that nothing is possible without the mercy of the Lord. So the two elements have to be there, both the devotee's effort and the Lord's mercy. And actually, when I read the translation of this, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's praying that to have enough strength to give up activities that are unfavorable. Praying, it reminded me of once our Guru Maharaj, remember him saying that we should pray to Lord Nityananda for the strength to what did he say? To bless us with the strength to serve our Guru in a way that would be pleasing to him or her. And I always thought that was very nice. It's something I try to remember each day, that Lord Nityananda can give us the strength to do that. And also I thought at this time of year, it's very fitting, isn't it? Because at the weekend, Kartik is going to start, the holy month of Kartik. And as we know, little Krishna, he inconceivably allowed himself to be bound by the love of his mother, due to a combination of her loving efforts, putting in so much effort, but also because of his grace and his mercy. So they say that's like the two fingers, the rope was too short, 2 fingers too short. So she kept adding more rope, but it was always two fingers too short. And then in the end, seeing all her efforts, and he became compassionate upon her and gave her his mercy. So yeah, I thought it was a nice time of year to mention that, and hopefully although those two elements can be there in our own lives, especially in this upcoming beautiful Kartik month, which I'm not sure if it starts Saturday or Sunday. I don't know when the full moon is, maybe Saturday. But yeah, so that's kind of the translation of that that song I thought we'd go through. I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions or anything to add or any thoughts. Please feel free to unmute. Or otherwise, I guess we'll leave it there. I think there's
Mohini.
Haribol, Jai Omkar.
Yeah, a verse was brought into my mind. I looked it up from the Chaitanya Charitamrita in regards to your talking about the Bahirmukha type of like approach. I think that's really important way to look at the world as a householder. So we don't become like Mahaprabhu is instructing Raghunath Das, not to become a Markata Vairagi, like a monkey-like renunciate. And he says something interesting in the verse of the 16th chapter of the Madhyam. I think is at 239. He says, you should, inside of your heart, you should always cherish Krishna, but externally you should behave like you're just materially attached devotee. So yeah, that almost was by word what how you described, how we should be, how Mahaprabhu is instructing Raghunath Das, who wants to join and renounce his life as a householder to join Mahaprabhu. But Mahaprabhu tells him no, you should just be amongst your family, be amongst the world, but internally be positioned like you're always living with me. So yeah, I was just reminded by that word.
That's so nice. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, insightful class. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've heard some of those verses before. I don't think I've gotten up to that part in the Chaitanya Charitamrita yet, because I think I'm only on about chapter 11 or 12 of the Madhya Lila. But did you say that was chapter 19 when he's instructing Raghunath Das?
No, it's chapter 16 of the Madhya Lila. Yeah, it's I didn't get up to that point either myself, but I read some little interview by Narsingha Maharaj, and he was talking about, in his line way, kind of about the Markata Vairagi, you shouldn't be a Markata Vairagi, you should be like a, yeah, but that's a good place to kind of mull over the ideas that you brought up by the Jana Sangha, like the worldly association, which I'm sure a lot of people are. Myself, at least, I'm always riddled by how to behave in the world and whatnot. So yeah, so thank you for that inspiration.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do like those verses. I remember hearing them before. Different things. He says about something about don't dress kind of lavishly, and don't engage in gramya katha, that kind of gossip, and just it's quite nice. But thank you so much. Yeah, that's great. Wow. Well, yeah, I guess if there's nothing else, then maybe we'll end there, and then I don't know when the next time I'll give a talk will be, but I think we'll just continue with this series. So after anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishyatiti vishvaso is the next principle. I'm just reading, I've got them written on my wall, so I'm just reading it off the wall. Try to remember how to surrender. So that the third principle will be the conviction that Krishna will give protection. So next time, whenever I'm due to talk again, hopefully we can find a nice song about that and talk a bit more about it. But thank you so much to you all for being here today, and for anybody watching online or in the future on YouTube. But Hare Krishna, thank you so much for joining us. Take care of you.
Thank you.
Haribol, Sharadade, Shradade.
Haribol, thank you so much. I'll try and get that printed. What you said, you wanted something printed on a T-shirt. I'll try.
Oh yeah, I had this plan
to do that.
I wanted to do it for years actually, because like I say, it was quite a long time ago that I wrote down that quote, and I thought it would be great to print it on a T-shirt, like I say, backwards, so that, you know, because Guru Maharaj says in the quote that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you say like, I'm a sadhaka, this is my trajectory, you know. So I thought it'd be quite good. And I thought I could get loads of them made and take them to like the Polish retreat or something, and give them out to them.
Yes, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Let's see. Yeah. But it's a good.
I wanted to point something more out about that. I was reminded of when I was in Madhuvan, and I was kind of thinking about leaving Madhuvan and going back to the world. So I was listening to a class by Guru Maharaj, and he said, answered somebody asking, so how should I do when I leave the ashram? How should I like live my life? And he said, you should live your life like you're centering it around bhakti and not the other way around. So basically like be a sadhaka, right? What you're pointing out, right? So yeah, that's an inspiration to me.
Interesting.
That's so nice. Thank you. Wow. So say that again, live your life as though like with
live your life evolved around bhakti and not the other way around. But I mean, it wasn't word by word, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, but that's that everything is like you said, that's the trajectory, and
exactly
rather than the bhakti being something on the edge or something. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. Jai, wow. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful Kartik month, and hopefully we'll see each other on Sunday with Guru Maharaj on the call, on the Q&A, and but thank you so much. Thanks for being here. And I'm sorry, Brajasundari just joined. I'm sorry, we're just finishing. But next time we'll next time we'll do the third principle. I wish you all the best. Jai Srila Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Swami Guru Maharaj ki jai. Gaura Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gauranga ki jai. Shri Kartik Mas ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Gauranga.